Where do you want to start?
Right at the beginning, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please, yeah.
We get the animals sheared once a year, and when they are sheared, excuse me, I'm ignoring that. The fiber comes off, and this is what it looks like. This one came off the animal and went directly in the bag. It's had nothing done, if you'd like to feel that.
So.
Yes. Dusty. Now, we could spin this. That's one of the things about alpaca that's really good. I'm going to... Sorry about my bag. You can spin directly from the animal. And watch me not be able to do this since I've got a... What you could just do is pull it out. And what I'm making here is what's called, see, this is, I don't usually spin right from the animal. I take the time to go through the fiber and pick out all the impurities.
Yeah.
And I also give it a light washing. A lot of people do spin right from the animal. I prefer to work with clean fiber. I mean, because they love to roll in the dust. So what I'm making here is actually, when you buy yarn, it comes in what's called plies. And it'd be 1 ply, 2 ply, 3 ply, and that's the thickness. I am actually making 1 ply of a yarn. So that's that from the raw. Now, if I was going to take it and wash it, give it a light wash, pick through it, pick all the debris out, give it a light wash, and then I run it through what's called a carder, and that just aligns the fibers, and we end up with something very similar to this. Now, this was done at a mill, so it's much more refined than what I would do.
Yeah.
And this is called roving, where the fiber's all been cleaned, and it's all in a nice long tube. Now, this particular roving, this is not alpaca, this is merino, but alpaca, it'd be the same thing, exactly the same. And you're going to do exactly the same thing. And now you see here, I can, it's like it'll drift apart, it's so loose.
Yeah.
But once you put some twist in it, that's what actually gives it strength. And by drawing back on it, this is what's called drafting. I can control how thick or thin it is. If I want it, I can go very thin and make it almost like a thread. Oh, please don't break. I'll look silly if it breaks. Or I can go really thick and make a really thick yarn. Or a thick and thin yarn. And this is, if I was doing it really, really thin, then this, from this point on, it can either be woven into cloth, made into things, or what I do a lot of knitting and crocheting.
Yeah.
Everything in here, you see, I do all my own dyeing. I don't use chemicals. Everything I own is fuzzy, by the way, even the cat. I only use food-grade dyes. I always joke and say it's because I'm not to be trusted with grown-up things. But really, the thing is, if I got to wear a mask and gloves just to mix the stuff, do you really want it next to your skin?
Yeah.
You know, and for me, it was all about trying to keep it as natural as possible.
So again.
Yeah, yeah. So that's from there. I can either, like I said, finished items are knitted or they're woven. What's these scarves here? This is a technique called felting, which is all like hand manipulated. And this is, I take the raw fiber and I lay it out and I work it with soap and water, and it starts to shrink.
Yeah.
And like this here has merino, alpaca. This white that you see here is tussa silk, which is silk from the wild silk caterpillar. And they've been really popular. The alpaca industry is fairly new. It started really end of the 80s, early 90s, and it is a business that attracts a lot of professionals and semi-professionals. We are not. We're kind of the odd apple out, so to speak. But a lot of the benefits to it is when people, like business people and that, when they're looking for places to put tax money in that, there's a lot of write-offs they can use and all that, and so there's a lot of tax benefits to this. People that are getting ready to retire and want to get away from the rat race, so to speak, it's been good for them. And one of the reasons that it really appeals to people is because it is a total non-slaughter industry. We are an agricultural industry, but it's non-slaughter. So it kind of is a different, we're coming at it from a different angle than, say, what your everyday farmer would do. As far as care, they're very easy to take care of. they're very hardy animals. There's not a lot that can go wrong with. So thinking about putting it in a school setting, yeah, it would probably be easier and better than, say, cattle. Or the, the smell factor alone would be good. Because in the barn, so there's not really a lot of smell for 14 animals. I don't know if you've ever been in other barns.
Horse barns are,
they're just pretty. Yeah, so is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to set that up, or?
Yeah, that's what the whole film is about.
They're looking for different options. So you got the farm end of it, eh?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I mean, skills what I was doing here has been, up until the mid 1800s. This wheel was invented, not this particular one, but the wheel was invented like in the middle of the 18th century, the 17th century, in the 1800s. Prior to that, everything was spun on, Jamie, if you hand me one of those spindles, a drop spindle. And when you think back and you think of the Renaissance times, you think of the costumes, ship sails, every single thing that was cloth was spin on one of these.
Wow.
Not pretty, but basically that's what it was. And it works the same way. Oops, you'll throw it around. Now watch me. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm doing the same thing I'm doing on the wheel, except I'm just...
It takes more work.
Yeah. They say that the wheel is faster by the hour, but the drop spindle is faster by the week, because the wheel I almost have to make an appointment with it and set it up, and there's a reason. You might get to see why they call this a drop spindle, because it's been a while. There we go. And up until the wheel was invented, this is how all cloth was made. And you think how amazing that is. They have to,
Yeah.
But so I think it's good that people are interested in the. It's not. I don't know what to call it. It's not an art, craft. Definitely a craft. Because we can't do. Right now we put all our. Won't go there. Like that show we saw last night. Like everything we know is so mechanized that if something happens, most people would be lost.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt at all to know how to be a little self-sufficient.
Just put it right When they called my grandparents told me that someone told me to make a movie, I was like, are you serious? I was like, about what? I was like, I don't know. It's about alpacas.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can do one man, I guess. Yeah, just right there. You probably only need like half of that, but take out of it or oh, okay. Yeah, that's it for now.
Huh? Back in the other.
Really matter. If it's a hassle, then no, it's not. I just
Yeah.
I just have to close it.
Okay.